What if I told you for just a couple of those energy drinks and just some of them Pokemon packs, you could be gaming in 1080p at high settings with frame rates that embarrass cards twice its price? Sounds like clickbait, right? Nah, this is a reality of a $90 Radeon RX 6600 in 2025. So is it actually worth it, or is it just another budget trap wrapped in hype? Today we're going to find out. You see, back in 2021, the RX 6600 launched with a price tag of around $329 USD. At the time, it was AMD's answer to Nvidia's RTX 3060. While it didn't quite win the ray tracing race, it crushed it in efficiency and raw raster performance for 1080p gaming. Fast forward to today, and somehow, this card is going for as little as $90 on the used market. That's cheaper than a pair of Joy-Cons. But how did we get here? Let's talk context. The RX 6600 features 8 gigs of GDDR6, a base clock of 2044 MHz, and a TDP of just 132 watts. The translation? It sips power like a Prius, not a muscle car, meaning even a 450 watt PSU could handle this GPU just fine. It also doesn't need external power bricks or a monster case. In fact, most RX 6600s are a single fan compact card perfect for budget builds and small form factor builds. But wait, it gets even better. So before we get into the gaming benchmarks, I'd just like to thank everybody that's been checking out my videos and my channel for the last couple of weeks. I really do appreciate it, guys. With that being said though, the algorithm showing that 98.7% of you guys are not subscribed to me. And so, if you really are enjoying this content, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It lets me know that I'm doing things that y'all are actually enjoying. First up, testing Apex Legends, we had a high preset. In 1080p, we averaged 140 to 165 FPS with a 1% low of 105. Apex is super optimized for the AMD cards, so the RX 6600 crushes 1080p here. On low competitive settings, you can push 180 to 200 FPS easily, ideal for high refresh rate monitors. In Call of Duty Black Ops 6 with DirectX 12 on its current patch with the balanced preset in 1080p, I was able to average 75 to 90 FPS with a 1% low of 60. Call of Duty games are heavier each year, but Black Ops 6 is well optimized and it's great for FSR 3. Using FSR balance, you can easily hit 100 FPS without much visual downgrade. Ray tracing tanks performance, so it's just best to keep it off. In Black Myth Wukong, the settings are set to medium plus FSR2 balanced. We were averaging 55 to 65 FPS with a 1% low of 45. This is one of the most demanding games on the market thanks to the Unreal Engine 5 and heavy visual fidelity. Still, the RX 6600 holds up surprisingly well. I'd use FSR, you'll dip below 50 in denser scenes and boss fights. Last but not least, we got Marvel Rivals with a high preset in 1080p. I'm averaging 90 to 110 FPS with a 1% low of 82. Marvel Rivals is GPU light and very playable, so the RX 6600 really just breezes through it. And team fights with effects going off, FPS can dip slightly, but it's nothing that's going to be game breaking or stuttering. So sure, it's not crushing ultra settings or 4K textures, but most of us just want solid frame rates with smooth gameplay, right? And that's where the RX 6600 quietly shines. But what about your competition? So right now, your $90 could get you something like a 1660 Super, which performs worse than this card, and it also has less VRAM. You may be able to squeeze yourself an RTX 2060, which can ray trace, but very poorly, and it burns more power. Even the Intel Arc cards like the A580 or the A750, while interesting, have major driver inconsistencies. Although they say that that's been fixed, so let me know down in the comments if you'd like me to pick one of those cards up and maybe we test that theory out. But in this price range, the RX 6600 just makes sense. It just dominates everything. Now obviously we need to address the elephant in the room, which is based on longevity. You might be wondering, okay, it's good for now, but how will it hold up next year or even the year after that? And the answer really just depends. AMD's driver support has improved dramatically in the past few years. Unlike older cards like the RX 580, the 6600 benefits from ongoing optimization. Plus, 8 gigs of VRAM is still the sweet spot for most current gen titles, especially at 1080p. Don't let all these 16 giggers fool you. But games are getting bigger, and textures are getting chunkier, and developers are starting to lean more onto ray tracing. So if you're planning on building a PC for ultra settings and AAA titles for the next 3 years, then yes, this isn't your card. But if you're gaming on a 1080p monitor, you're just playing competitive shooters, maybe some indies, some modern AAAs on medium to high settings, then the RX 6600 will absolutely hold its own for the next few years. So who is this RX 6600 really for in 2025? Well, I believe they're for budget gamers, maybe Steam Deck owners wanting a secondary rig, small form factor builders on a tight budget, maybe kids even upgrading from an iGPU, or anyone who just doesn't care about ray tracing or 1440p Ultra. And hey, if you're flipping used PCs or building systems for resale, throw one of these into a $400 build and watch it fly off your local market shelves. Now let's play the devil's advocate here for a moment. When is the RX 6600 not worth it? If you're rocking an RX 580 or a GTX 1060 right now, the upgrade's going to be noticeable, but maybe not massive. Sure, you'd get better FPS, but it's not a generational leap. In that case, you may want to wait a bit longer or save up for something like a 6700 XT or maybe even a RTX 4060. Also, if your goal is to stream, edit 4K videos, or play with high-end AI tools, you'll hit some limitations pretty fast. The RX 6600 is a gaming-first card, and it doesn't pretend to be anything else. So what's my final thought on it? Well, at $90, the RX 6600 is the king of budget gaming in 2025. It's not flashy, it doesn't promise you ray tracing utopias or even DLSS miracles, but it does deliver smooth 1080p performance with low power draw and a solid driver support for under $100. And in a world where GPUs often cost more than your rent, that's not a bad deal. In fact, I'd even say it's a steal. But if you found this video helpful, please drop a like for me, hit the subscribe button. It tells the algorithm that I'm just not talking to myself. But if you got any questions about your build or want to see a $400 RX 6600 gaming PC build guide, comment down below.